Hi, guys. This is Billy and Shaun. Peterson Wealth Services point of view. We want to talk about all the stuff going on in the world today. And believe me, there's a lot. You know, we have the election finalized. We have Trump going like a bulldozer.
Bat out of hell. Just say it.
He's going hard. And we're looking at this on a daily basis to really come to the office and find out what's going to happen next. So, of course, the hot buttons are Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, and tariffs. We've heard from both sides of the aisle on tariffs, the good, the bad, the ugly. We want to break that down along with all the things that is happening and for what reason. So let's dive into some of this and maybe help you understand, get some working knowledge of what's going on, because honestly, I've found that I've given up on a lot of the media sources, Shaun.
I don't like any of them, be honest, because you really got to cipher through it all. And you know, most people get their media from like their Instagram, it seems like, or their Facebook. And whether you know it or not, those apps know how you think. So they're going to put that type of news, however you think, right in front of you. And then it gets in this rabbit hole. It can get scary. But I mean, we're talking about Doge and tariffs, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Doge. So
I think it's important to go into that. What's going on with Doge and what's the intention?
Yeah. And unless you've been living under a rock, you've had to have heard about this. And we're not talking about the coin. We're talking about this department that Elon Musk is heading up for Donald Trump. And really what, Elon's point of view has been is that there's waste and inefficiency in the government. The government is becoming too big. There's not a lot of accountability or transparency of where our tax dollars are going. So when you tell me all that, that sounds like a positive. I want to know more about that. Some people say, oh, he's not qualified. He shouldn't have his nose in politics. And I would beg to differ a little bit. Reason being, the man has built multiple multi-billion-dollar companies. And he just didn't do that because his parents were rich or because he had some secret sauce. He did it because he works his ass off and he knows what's good and what's bad. So applying that to some of our government agencies, to me, is not a bad thing.
Think about how we got into this hole, Shaun. Doing things the same old way for decades.
Can you imagine when you got into the financial planning business, how many years ago was it?
28.
28 years ago. If you ran your business today like you did back then, would you be around?
No.
Okay, so you had to adapt, improvise what was good, what was bad to grow Peterson Wealth to where it is today. Same concept with Elon and what he's trying to do with our government. I think he's trying to make some changes. And, I think, and this is nothing against government workers or anything like that, but it's, you work for a government agency and you just do it that way because we've done it that way forever. And he's looking at saying, well, maybe there's a more efficient way to do that. Maybe an example is, Elon has SpaceX, right? Government has NASA. Mm-hmm. We're just looking at some numbers here. So one of these developments had a budget of $23 billion. So this development started in 2011.
Now that was for NASA. That's their system.
That was their system, space launch system. Well, SpaceX comes along with Starship. So costs less than $5 billion to do a similar thing. The SLS one hasn't done anything yet.
SLS actually, it cost them around $4.1 billion per launch.
Right. And Elon's doing it for way less than that. So
just a good example of somebody applying business sense rather than going through the red tape of the government and all of the layers, which are, I mean, in many cases, overkill,
right?
If not completely useless.
Right. I think the point of this conversation was to kind of say, is Elon qualified? And I feel like, yeah, he's qualified. And then the things that he wants to do are not as bad as maybe it's being painted out there on whatever news channel you may be watching.
You can always find something to pick at in this world. And I think that's what is so important about your point earlier is the algorithms that we're all feeding ourselves on social media. If you're on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, X, I should say, you're getting pretty much fed the things that you look at. So the system knows if you're going to click on a certain post, it's going to remember that. And then it's going to feed you more of those similar types of posts. So all you're doing is reiterating, entrenching in your own mind that you're right, that everything you're seeing is right, because now you have people backing you up on those beliefs. And so you consider that your position is all that matters. And so what we've gotten to is a one-sided society, in a sense that we have this side and we have that side. And it's a politically motivated moving target where everything is considered under the lens of politics. And even if you feel like, if you were to step back and say, man, that's common sense. That's just common sense. Let's see where our tax dollars are going. Let's see if there's any fraud or waste. Similar to you would want to see that in your own household if you found out that you had massive amounts of debt and spending that was going toward things that you had no idea was happening. You'd want to look into that a little further. If you got your credit card statement and you see a huge debit balance on your credit card, most of us look through that and say, what happened? Did they make a mistake?
What the hell's going on?
You know, what's going on? Did my wife go crazy? But I mean, it's weird how we see a lot of people who don't want this to happen, and they're finding these reasons why they don't want to look under the hood. It's like Elon's group is too young. They're 19-year-olds, and why should we trust them to look at anything? From what I hear, these people are very smart,
very proven.
They've started businesses. They know how to manage the AI systems. They're looking for irregularities.
Well, I mean, just look at this stat we pulled up. The Pentagon has failed 5 consecutive audits.
Failed 5 consecutive audits. How much, Shaun?
$6.5 trillion unaccounted for in one audit. That's just one of them.
Does that not raise an eyebrow? Yep. I would ask you, please consider that one.
Another one, California high-speed rail. So the bullet train disaster is what it's been coined, not someone else's words, not mine, okay? Estimated for $33 billion in 2008.
Trump's on this one now.
He's on it. It's ballooned. The cost have ballooned to over $128 billion, and it's still not working.
Imagine a business that started out and you went public and you were going to say, this is what our business is going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to create this railway connecting San Francisco to LA. And by the way, shareholders, we think it's going to cost us $33 billion. And we're also going to have X number of dollars of revenue going forward from people riding that train. And okay, so now you can decide, do I want to participate in that company?
Right.
Buy the shares, IPO, or whenever you want to participate. Now imagine if that company failed to deliver on any of it and then raised their estimated costs by almost 4 times.
So that company goes out of business and is broke. But
thank you.
With things like this, it doesn't stop it. And why?
It's
because
the government.
Government has taxing authority, or they can pull from other budgets, which we're finding a lot of that happening, where money that went for one budget is getting pulled to something else. Take Social Security is a great example of this.
Ooh, ugly.
We'll maybe get into that in a little bit. But basically, Billy's point is your business would fail. It would be done. There'd be accountability for that.
Well, or everybody would be fired. And
everyone would be fired and replaced.
I mean, it might be still a viable idea.
Sure.
And if somebody was running it properly, it would be a good plan.
Right.
Somebody could do it well. But if you can't do it well, get out of the way is what I would think. Get out of the way. Let somebody else have a crack at it. And the government bothers most people because they're very inefficient and they never feel like it's their money. They feel like they can do what they want with it. They have the power and they have an unlimited supply of money, but they don't ever have any conscience about it because they continue to tax and they raise money from all of us. Remember, guys, the government wouldn't even exist without us and our tax dollars.
Without taxpayers.
The other one, maybe a fourth or a third, raise your eyebrow type programs was during the COVID-19 relief program where you had the PPP loans, as we all remember. There's supposedly uncovered $76 billion in fraudulent claims. So give people an opportunity, and there are going to be a lot of people who lie and cheat and steal. Yep. It's been that way since the dawn of time.
I've seen several local Utah news stories of businesses that claimed those PPP funds, and the business owner would end up going to jail. But imagine how many were uncaught. And even if you catch them, do you think the money's still there? Are they going to pay that back? Probably not. They probably spent it on something else. And unemployment fraud is huge too. And we're picking on kind of government related programs because remember, the whole reason we was talking about this is this Doge. Are we being efficient? And we're just giving some examples. Prison inmates receiving unemployment. Okay.
Yeah. I think we saw yesterday that there are millions of people still receiving Social Security benefits that are long past dead.
Yeah,
long past dead.
One was 101 person that was receiving benefits, 150 years old, and they're going, "Oh my God, we found a record."
I mean, he rode in on Noah's Ark. That guy, he's damn near that old. I don't know how these things are happening. Also, what's really mind-boggling to me, this is how sheltered, I guess, and I feel like I'm pretty exposed to information in the world. I had no idea we had an underground bunker holding all the files for Social Security people. Like the Social Security benefits.
We do?
Yeah. Didn't you see this? It's in an underground mine that's that you have to take an elevator down and then you go in and it's all on paper. So there's people in there handwriting out. They're in files. Now, I didn't believe this. I thought this has got to be bull. Elon Musk posted pictures of the mine.
Okay. So that's an example of not adapting to
That's
new
not
technology.
efficient,
It's not efficient.
I mean, we have to pull out their records. No wonder these guys are still getting payments. The whatever it is, what do they call that in Harry Potter? The guys that go down in there and get the stuff out of the mines. But
you're not going to like this, but I've never seen Harry Potter. I'm sorry. Okay. Don't throw rocks. I've never seen Star Wars or Star Trek either, so sorry.
All right, never mind, Shaun. I can't talk movies with you. I know, so far behind the times. What's another one, Shaun? I mean, give me one more example.
Okay, one more. So foreign aid. Okay, we know we send a lot of money out to other countries. Point Elon and President Trump are trying to make is where's the oversight? Where's that money actually going? I mean, what's his name? Zelensky? Is that his name? Came out and said, we have not received all of that money that supposedly was sent. So, we're asking for some transparency, some accountability. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So to have someone come in and disrupt the system, yeah, a lot of people aren't going to be happy with it. Some of the people that aren't going to be happy with it are people that are running these agencies or have their hand in the cookie jar, if you will. Maybe there's some questionability of what they've been doing, and are they going to be in trouble? So yeah, they're not going to be happy with it. Another thing we're getting is, maybe we have clients that work up at Hill Air Force Base, and they're scared. They're wondering if they're going to have a job. So, we feel for those type of situations, and I don't think most people are in that position where they're going to lose their job. It's more of the people or the positions that have not been looked at for years, or what is going on with the position? Is it still needed? Could you be better utilized somewhere else? With your job skills. So
retrain people for things that are more critical, more necessary. So this is the transparency issue that we're talking about. Transparency in the budget. We want to see where our tax dollars are going. Require audits, all right, and understand where these government contracts are going. That's a real big place of fraud, is government contracts that just suddenly get signed or agreed upon, and then billions of dollars suddenly is hidden or can't be accounted for. And then cutting these unnecessary projects that seem to be overkill and overspend.
Bill, I'm bringing up a chart that kind of goes along of like, why are you guys talking about this? Why is this so important? And this talks about the federal budget deficit. And I think you had a few points you wanted to make on this.
This ties right hand in hand with what we've been talking about, the budget deficit. Why is it that we're talking about spending? Well, how do we have a budget deficit? Well, we have more spending than we have revenue or income. What is the government's source of income? Taxes. So when taxes, and also I should say tariffs are a source of income. So when we have less coming in than going out, you have a deficit. Deficits are not good, guys. When you think about your own household or your own business or a company, when you're running in a red, you're not running profitable. You're not running in a good financial situation. As you can see on this chart, we're looking at a $1.8 trillion deficit just in this year, in the year 2025. That equates to about a 6.3% factor of GDP, how much gross domestic product we produce as a country, what percentage of that is our deficit. You can see we've been running deficits for a long time, big time in the COVID years, and it kind of clawed our way back, but we're trending in the wrong way again.
So let me ask you this, and some listeners may be thinking this. Well, if the revenue for the government's from taxes and Trump's proposing to lower taxes, how does that make any sense?
That's a good question. And you're going to hear that from the opposite side, that they think that's foolish because it's going to cut revenue even further and make this worse. Trump's argument, and a lot of the people who have studied this, including the Congressional Budget Office, looks at it and says, when you cut taxes, an actual strange phenomenon occurs. Maybe not strange to them, but strange to some people. The phenomenon is more activity actually occurs.
So tax revenue actually goes up even though the tax brackets are lower.
Yes,
because there's more activity.
More money. They don't have to give it to the government. So what are they going to do? They're going to spend it. They're going to put it into the economy. People by and large aren't hoarders. They don't want to get their money and just rat hole it away. Now, there are a few people who do. But for the most part, people put that money that they save from giving it to the government and they use it in generating other activity. So when they go to restaurants, they go on trips, they travel, they do all these other things that's stimulating the economy and just turning those dollars over. Now more people have jobs. Now that the waiters and waitresses and the airlines, the pilots, everybody that's involved in all these other activities makes money and they're paying their tax. So you stimulated all of that by new dollars going into the economy that didn't go into the government coffers.
And the other flip side of it is bringing more money in through tariffs, which we're going to talk about.
We're anticipating that, not we, but we've read reports, very, very reputable reports, that these tariffs are anticipated to generate an additional $2 trillion in the next 6 years.
Yeah, or sooner even, I think.
Over a period of time, we're going to start seeing that layered in. No one knows for sure how the tariffs are going to impact the, maybe trade wars. We hear that all the time. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And Shaun's got a couple points on this slide.
Yeah. So this is just U.S. trade balance, and it's on a month. This is a monthly number that we're looking at. So right now we're running a $98 billion shortage
per month,
which is a huge number. The average is about 40 billion. So I think Trump's looking at this and saying, we need to do something about it. And what are some of the reasons why you would implement tariffs? It's addressing imbalances, like I'm showing you here on this chart. We've got a big imbalance, protecting our own businesses.
Yeah.
Okay. We're trying to make America number one and strong. And why? I used to feel guilty saying that. I'm not kidding. Like, make America great again, or we want to be number one. But why wouldn't you want to be number one?
Well, that term went from being something you had to hide to now something people are proudly repeating.
And I don't even mean it as a political term. I mean it as where I live in this country, I want it to be great. And I want it to be great for everybody. So that's another reason for tariffs. And then also encouraging fair trade practices. So we're all on the same playing level. If I have a widget and I make it here in the United States and I want to sell it to China, they're probably going to impose a 200% tariff on me. However, if someone in China is making the same widget and they want to sell it here, you're not getting near the same cost, the same tariff. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So why is that okay? And Trump's going, it's not okay. And then he's also saying, hey, by the way, our friends at the southern border, a lot of illegal immigrants are coming over the border. A lot of drugs, crime, outlaws are coming over the border. You need to do something about it. And nothing's been done about it. Let's be honest. And within how many hours of him implementing tariffs on Mexico?
Just this last Monday, so a little over a week ago.
Yeah.
The news was going crazy.
Nuts.
The markets were going crazy. Everyone's saying, see, I told you so. He's going to kill you and wreck the economy. And it was because over the weekend, he imposed a 20% tariff on Mexico and Canada. He said, you guys are going to have 20%. Right.
And everyone was like, oh my God, my avocados, what the hell am I going to do?
Get my strawberries.
I can't get all that stuff from Mexico. Well, within, I don't know how long.
It was about 6 hours.
6 hours.
On Monday.
The Mexico president, what's her name? I can't remember.
Her name.
But she said, I'll have 10,000 troops to the border to help with all the problems that you guys are having.
And Canada agreed also to come to terms. So Trump put a freeze on those tariffs. So the point is, he used it as a negotiating tool.
Right.
Like, we have the leverage here. People want to do trade with us because we're such a strong country.
Right. So doing that, again, did all the things that I just talked about with imbalances, level the playing field. And we also got the benefit of our border being protected all in one shot. And keep in mind, tariffs are not new. When Trump first got in his first term, he was mentioning some of the same things. Everyone was talking about how it was going to wreck the economy. It didn't. We had a great
4 years there.
4 year
to be honest,
economy.
it was a very low inflationary environment, good job growth. So the economy did well. These tariffs are going to add to the revenue supply. So even a 10% across the board tariff would, like I said, generate another $2 trillion. What if he did 25? He's proposing 25% tariffs to China. And he just proposed, I think, a 15% tariff on steel and aluminum.
Yeah.
Again, protecting our own industries, protecting our own
job protection there.
Companies.
Some of the cons, right? We talked about that.
Yeah, that's going to be like the consumer cost. So everyone's really focused in on the costs that are going to be passed on to the consumer. What is that going to mean when you have higher costs for the companies who are selling those goods to us when they have to pass on those costs to the consumer? Well, yeah, potentially you're going to have higher costs on those particular goods and services. But as we mention all the time here, try to explain this in financial terms, economics, since there's not an additional increase in dollars, then you only have a limited supply of those dollars right now. And so what we're going to see is the cost might go up for those items, but since you don't have additional dollars to spend on other things, you're going to spend less for other things. So it's going to wash out in the end. What leads to inflation is when you have more money introduced into the economy. So it's what happened when we had COVID. You had policies that were implemented to just throw money at the problem. And the problem was you killed the economy. You shut it down. Everyone had to go home. Everyone had to potentially lose their jobs. I mean, industries, whole entire industries were forced to close down. And so what they do is they printed money just to try to keep everybody happy and appease them. And that's where you had this huge surge in inflation. And now we're trying to drain that inflation back out of the system.
That's what you're talking about right here, Billy. 2020, 2021, when the
because you didn't
was
have
big.
hardly any revenues coming in because no one had employment, pretty much. No one was doing anything.
Right.
And you had huge spending still, more spending than ever.
Couple more notes on some of potential cons of the tariffs, retaliation by other countries. You end up in this trade war, but I don't think that's the route it will go. There's going to be a middle ground found for most things.
See, that's the difference between a business leader or a business person and a politician. The politician has no idea how far to stretch and what his strengths are and his weaknesses are. His or her, I shouldn't say his, but anyone that's a business person knows that they have strengths and weaknesses, and they know when they can put a little bit of pressure on their suppliers. Hey, we can get that part cheaper. You got to cut your costs. You got to do this better. They're always negotiating something to be able to be more efficient for their own business, which is what we love. So as an investor, I love that when a CEO finds ways to make their own company more profitable.
Right.
So think about that as we turn that dial back over to America. If America were the company, we'd want a good, strong business leader. And I look at that and I say, that to me it makes sense, because I want America to be strong. I want it to be well protected. And I also love this whole thing about the health that we're starting to uncover. Right?
We'll do another podcast on that, Billy, because I know you're going to.
I want to get into that later. Yeah. That's not for today.
Well, kind of let's wrap up the talk about the deficit and stuff. When we're in a deficit and we don't have money to pay the bills, okay? And when I say we, I'm talking about the government, our country. What do? We go out and we issue bonds, okay? So that means we're borrowing money. This chart talks about the interest payments that we're paying on that money, because it's not free. Some people think, oh, the government just prints money and we have more of it, and we're fine, we cover our bills, but that's not true. We borrow it from other sources.
And this is what concerns us about future generations. And I know this seems like trivial and most people kind of brush it off as like, hey, not our problem, not our problem. But it is. And if you have children and you want to see things left in a good way for them, then let's not saddle them with debts that they can never pay. Because someday, and I keep saying someday, but this problem is not getting better. And so everything that we look at, we want to say, financially, does this make sense? How much are we borrowing? How much can we borrow? And when should we bring this spending level down to a reasonable number to where we can actually afford it? You're projecting to have $1.7 trillion in interest alone in 2034. In interest alone. That used to be more than the annual GDP, like not that long ago. Really.
Right.
That was like way beyond what we could even fathom. I can't even tell you what the difference between to go from $1 million to $1 billion is wild, the numbers. To go from $1 billion to $1 trillion, that'll blow your mind. And we're just running through trillions like it's not even a big deal.
Well, I think that's the point. We're trying to bring back meaning to what we're spending, the dollars that are actually going out, and apply feeling to it, right? It's like when you swipe a credit card. Okay. It's easy. You swipe it, the money's not there. But you get me to take out my wallet and to break $100 bill, you're gonna have to fight me.
Painful.
It's painful. I've got hundreds that have been in my family for years in this wallet.
But Shaun, I've seen you at Vegas. You pull those.
Vegas doesn't count.
The hundreds come out to the cap table like it's nothing, like it's water.
Vegas doesn't count, man.
You know, I just want to leave it with this. This whole, I call it an experiment, and it's interesting to watch what's happening. And you have the people that are really excited about what's going on and kind of pulling back the curtain on the spending and maybe even corruption. Okay. I know that's a scary word to say. And a lot of times people think that you're a conspiracy theorist because you believe that the government might have its hand in some bad things. But boy, I'm telling you, I really think there's potentially a lot of corruption going on, and there's going to be some accountability. And what we're going to be able to see as citizens, it might be earth shattering when they're talking about releasing the JFK files.
Right.
And they're talking about, hey, it's not at all what you've been led to believe for the last 50 years. And the Martin Luther King files and the Epstein files and UFOs. I mean, all that stuff, and the moon landing. I mean,
yeah, who knows where we're headed?
Really? I thought that was crazy when somebody told me there was no moon landing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you? You're a weirdo, man.
Yeah. But Boyle, let's kind of wind it back down, because everyone's like, okay, you guys talked a lot about this. How does it affect my money? I think a lot of people are saying, how does that affect?
I think transparency is going to be huge, because now I think that we can decide, is this the right use of money? Is this the right use of tax dollars? Can we put tax dollars, again, going back to my analogy as a business, if we have the leaders of a business deciding that this investment, let's call it an investment of money, is worthwhile and it's going to return everybody more money or more prosperity, then let's do it. Because that's what a business does. It decides how to allocate resources to make a product better, to find a better service for people that they're going to be able to utilize and enrich their lives. So think of all of us as taxpayers or citizens as we're the shareholders of this business. And we should be aligned with the company and want that company to succeed, to do everything that it can do to make all of us wealthier, happier, healthier, everything that goes along with it. So whoever's running the show, let's get behind them. Let's look at what they're doing. Let's hope that we can see through the lens of what they're trying to do for all of us. And then if everything's efficient, why wouldn't it be better? Why wouldn't we all be better for it?
I think we'll all be better for it, for sure.
Notice that we're going to make some changes in the portfolios. Those of you who are investors with us, we have been making a few little adjustments in your accounts, taking some of the high flyers that have ran up for several years and trimming those back down. So don't hate us when we do things like that, because this whole conversation has been about taxes, and taxes are going to occur when we make money. When we have a profit, it's called a capital gain in our world. And you may see some capital gains next year. Some of you are dealing with them this year. That's part of our business. we try to reduce those as much as we can because we know you hate paying taxes. But we're talking about taxes, and that's why, again, I think you should care where your taxes are going.
We don't like paying taxes either, but we care about your investment portfolios with us. And when an example is if we have a position in a portfolio and it's a 6% starting position, new money comes in, 6% of that money goes to that position. Well, over the years, let's say that's grown to a 20% position. Now the portfolio is increased in risk because it has a highly concentrated position. So what we do as money managers, portfolio managers, say, you know what, let's take some profits off of that position, bring it back down to 6, spread it across other positions, and that's called a rebalance. That's really what we did. And those ones that have ran up so high, they're at higher valuations. And if we get a market slowdown, a correction, a recession, those are the ones that are typically going to be more volatile. So we're still in those positions. So if they continue to go up, we're all going to benefit. But instead of having so much risk in the portfolio that it's not a good spot for our clients, we decided it was time to take some profits off the table. Like Billy said, don't yell at us. I don't write the tax code. Okay. We try to minimize taxes the best that we can with everything. And I just want to point out, kind of going forward with markets, we've talked about a lot of different things here, and everyone wants to know, what's it going to do to the stock market? That's what everybody wants to know. The answer is no one has that crystal ball. I've got to look at it from a longer term perspective of what's going to happen. And I think it's going to put the US, our government, in a better position, and doing business in the United States in a better position. So we're actually pretty optimistic moving forward. Making big changes like this can have some short-term pain points. And sometimes that's in the form of market volatility. That doesn't mean that good, companies out there close their doors and they don't do business anymore. The good ones will figure out how to operate in whatever regulatory government environment we're in at that time. And that's what we're looking for in our portfolios.
You hear us all the time say, don't base your investment decisions on politics. Still, some people want to do that, and they tend to stop or do things that have an alignment with their political affiliation. They hate certain people in the office, so they don't
put all their money in the bank, or they love someone in the office. They put all their money in the market. That's not how we make our investment decisions.
Right. We want to buy good companies, and we want to let them do their job. That's what we do day in and day out. So we're watching it. Remember, we're just trying to balance the risk and the return. To use horse analogy, we like to let the winners run. Okay. So we're not going to always take the saddle off the good horse and put it on the bad one, or bet on the bad one just because he hasn't won a race yet. I mean, he might never win a race. But oftentimes in our world, the investments kind of level out over time, and sometimes companies start to slip in their valuation or the perception of what they're going to do going forward. And therefore, money starts to flow back to the companies that have been boring and dead money for a while, so to speak. So sometimes they then have their moment to shine. And I say moment, it might be years. So that's going to be something you'll see and you'll deal with. Call us if you have questions on that. Know this is kind of a long video, but there's a lot to talk about. And, we just try to do these videos so you can hear from us, you can hear what we're thinking, and you can form some of the opinions based on what we say. Doesn't mean we're always right, but we sort of do our research and we try to look at all the different angles before just offering up our own view. So for Shaun and Billy, this is Peterson Wealth Point of View. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye, everyone.